Hello friends, Tanya here with a video for Trinity Stamps, and today we are going to do a Santa in the City Lights card. We're going to start by ink blending a couple of Distress Oxide inks. These are not colors I would typically use together. I don't know why I haven't in the past because they actually make a wonderful night sky. I'm starting out by adding some shaded lilac to the center of this panel and then adding some prized ribbon at the top and blending those two together. I cannot believe how well these work together. It just creates this beautiful twilight skyline. Next, we're going to take the layering stencils called City Lights. It is part of the release from, was it from November? It was the latest release from Trinity Stamps, and I am ink blending the cityscape, or the buildings, there we go, the buildings in a couple of purples. I decided to pull out the newest color from the Distress line, and that's the Villainous Potion. It's perfect with the shaded lilac and the prize ribbon. It just makes this beautiful reflected skyline. I do add a little bit of the Villainous Potion at the top edge of the farther away section, as I wanted to add a little definition to that skyline to make it not blend in so much with that middle ink blending. Next, I tried to add some twinkle to the further away buildings with some of the liquid pixie dust. I just wanted to add a little bit of twinkle in there. This might have worked better had I used a sponge and applied it that way. It kind of got blobby, and yes, it got a little blobby. I did dry that with my heat tool, and I'm just going to go with it. That's not the main focus of this card, and I think it's okay to not have it be perfect. Next, we're going to take some of the opaque grit paste that it came out with the Distress line this fall, and I believe it might still be in the Trinity shop. Check that out. I'll have it linked in the description box below if it's still available. I'm applying that through the stencil for the closer section of the buildings, and I'm going to just apply that through the stencil. Now this is kind of a grit. It's got texture to it too. Not only can you not see through it, so it's going to add a raised solid white bunch of windows on all of these buildings, but it has a little bit of a grit to it. It'll maintain its shape quite nicely. I'm going to promptly clean all of that paste off of my tools so that it doesn't get dried onto my stuff here. And I'll have to set that aside to dry for about 10 minutes, maybe 15. Next, I'm pulling out the Nightscapes Scene Builder Stamp and Die Set. This is from probably August or September, but it has a great bunch of images that we can stamp and die cut. I'm going to pull out these cloud and the swoosh stamp, and I'm going to stamp these on some vellum in the clear embossing ink, the juicy embossing ink. Going to use my anti-static powder tool first and just add 2 or 3 layers of the clear embossing ink. I want a nice heavy application of the ink because I'm going to use the white puff embossing powder. If you've not used that before, it's really fun. It creates a very textured white raised image on whatever you're doing. This was from Hero Arts. There are several, and it came in a kit. There are several companies that carry the white puff embossing powder, and you can get it from a variety of places. I just happen to have, actually, I think I have more than one version in my embossing drawer. Some of them from kits, some I've purchased. Sometimes we think that we're going to try a different brand to see if it works better, and I have to say for the white embossing puff powders, they all seem to perform exactly alike. This is some inexpensive vellum, so you have to be a little more careful that you don't warp it. I just make sure my heat gun's nice and hot and then move on fairly quickly. Next, we're going to take the coordinating dies and die cut all of these clouds. And I didn't realize it was going to cut the way it did, but I'm quite pleased. It turned out better than I had hoped. I really like how they turned out. Now you could just cut these clouds out. Look at that. There's no, you can't see any of the vellum lines. They're all the solid white puff. I think that's perfect. But you could die cut all of those things without having stamped any of them. For those particular images, you wouldn't need to stamp them. Next, we're going to stamp Santa and his sleigh and his reindeer in, again, the clear embossing ink, the juicy ink, on some black cardstock. Now, this is not a high quality black cardstock. It's what I had in my stash. And I've had some troubles finding good quality black cardstock in stock anywhere. Well, do what you got. Do with what you've got. I pulled out some sparkling clear embossing powder, and I'm going to heat emboss that. So we'll have a raised, shiny image on this black cardstock. I think that looks really impressive, especially with our silhouette stamps. There are a lot of silhouette stamps in the Trinity line, and this is a perfect way to add an extra pizzazz to them. I'm going to use my little sidekick to die cut these. A lot of dies for coordinating dies for stamp sets. A lot of them work in a little die cut machine, so you don't have to go to a separate area of your craft space. Next, I took the Slimline stitched panels dies, and I took the largest panel and die cut this pearlescent black cardstock. I also cut out the center because you're not actually going to see that, and I wanted to save it to use on another project. You just never know when you're going to need a scrap of the pearlescent paper. I've been using my specialty paper more and more lately because I just need to use it. That's why we purchase these things. We need to use them. No more hoarding, just use it. That way you can get all of the enjoyment that you anticipated when you purchased it. I did cut an extra layer of black cardstock of the Santa's sleigh die cut, and I'm going to adhere those together. And then I will adhere all of these to the front of the card. I did add a layer of coaster blank behind the ink blended panel to give that a little extra depth. And since all of these stamped and heat embossed vellum pieces have solid embossing, you can put the glue wherever you want. It's not going to show. I'm using the heavy block to help get those pieces adhered. Since it's vellum, it does take a little longer for it to dry. We're going to put Santa on his magical swoosh, again using that heavy block to help things stay and adhere best. I am going to trim this cloud off and actually use the trimmed off piece. You'll see me get it lined up where I think I want it, trim off that extra wispy bit, and then we're going to use that extra wispy bit up in this corner to add a little balance. We have one more chunk of cloud left, and I'm only going to use this one piece. I don't think we need another piece of this cloud. You could add it if you want. Try and squeeze it in there. I can't believe that this Slimline card has come together so quickly and it got full so fast. Didn't require a lot of extra pieces. Inside the card, I'm going to use a sentiment from the Holiday Tag Helper stamp set. This doesn't have a coordinating die unless you count the holiday tag. It doesn't die cut the sentiment, but that's okay. We're just using it on the inside of the card. I think it's a perfect magical. I like the little sparkles around the Merry Christmas. It goes very well with Santa flying through the sky. I did do some multi-tonal stamping. I did a solid image of the purple and then added some of the blue, making sure to soften the transition. And then I went over the top of it with a clear, sparkly ink. This was called Illuminate. I think it's the Sparkle Versamark that you can still get. Next, I wanted to add a little gem grouping to the front of the card. I actually wanted to put some little stars on there, but I found these Twinkling Tourmaline embellishments, which are iridescent purple gems, and I just thought they went perfect with the color scheme. So I added a scattering of those, kind of like Santa leaving them in his wake. That is my card. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this card. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please take a moment now to do that. If you're interested in any of the products I used today, check that description box below. I always have those linked and listed below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps so much. Until next time, check out these videos here. Bye-bye.